In September of 2019, a new channel was created at twitch.tv, a live video streaming site mainly used for playing video games in front of an audience with an active chat. The platform has each game set as a category of its own. This channel, however, fell into the category of just chatting, in which the streamer, instead of playing games, just has a conversation with his chat. Even within this section of Twitch, this channel has stood out. It wasn't about having fun and indulging in escapism. It was the opposite. The topics covered were deeply emotional and intellectual, dealing with the pain of the human experience and how one might go about processing it and reducing it. Although the channel had little to no views, it kept on going and trying to evolve its format until it reached the jackpot. Instead of talking about these overwhelming topics, the viewer would get to experience them secondhand by watching interviews in the form of therapy sessions with people who suffer from these situations and their ill effects. The streamer, in this case a practicing psychiatrist, would be able to illustrate everything he has been talking about in real time through helping others with their issues and dilemmas, presented in the form of long chats that the viewers witness as an acknowledged semi-participant through the Twitch streaming platform. At first, these interviews were conducted with regular people who just came up to the show, and later with influential streamers on the site with an already present, large audience associated with them. During these hour-long talks, the participants would speak about their lives and the problems they were having, down from addiction and depression to abuse and suicide, and up to relationship, meditation and fulfillment. No topic was out of bounds. The psychiatrist would calmly listen, ask relevant questions, and lead the conversation towards understanding and healing one's condition. Participants and viewers would leave with a deep sense of revelation and materials to implement in order to live a healthier life. Now, months later, the channel has over 100,000 followers, and it is a sure thing that what is happening is special, important, and helpful on a level that was rarely seen on the internet up to this point. And here I am to explain how that is so. I am going to start this video with a disclaimer. Since the topic of practicing conventional therapy on the internet is ingrained with many laws and regulations, I will not use the word as it is commonly referred to. Instead, I will use the actual definition of the word, without its practical implications, of the standardized process in which a mental health professional meets with a mentally ill individual to treat his disorder. Therapy, according to multiple dictionaries, only refers to the practice of helping another person with their problems, nothing more than that. If you've ever talked to a friend about how shitty their work life is, you are a therapist under the lens of this video, and he was your patient. Through my research for this video, I have found that conventional therapy and coming to the aid of another person are basically the same under different circumstances, and so being a good therapeutic practitioner and following certain principles would apply the same to being a good supporter of your surroundings and yourself. This trilogy will be referring to the helper as the therapist, the helped as the patient, and the watchers as the audience, and will be using male pronouns for the sake of simplicity. But know that anyone can and will be either of those roles, no matter their circumstances at some point in their lives. Now, with all this mumbo-jumbo of semantics said and done, let us move on to demystify this magical state in which people rise for understanding and healing one another, while thousands upon thousands are watching and rewatching. Starting with our traveling protagonist, Dr. K, the one to untangle our pain and suffering.
Just understanding that there's a root to like your suffering, and understanding that that root is legitimate. We took that thing and we knocked it off base for a few seconds. I find that exploring just about anything and understanding yourself deeper and better is almost always an overwhelmingly positive experience. So the most important step you can take is the next step. Feel disappointed in themselves and feel like the world is disappointed in them. Like, there's a part of me that says that every gamer is a little bit broken. I'm not going to tell you to calm down. No, buddy, I'm not going to tell you to calm down. I'm going to tell you to feel.
The History of Alok Kanoja. Dr. K. Alok Kanoja was born on the 10th of July 1982 to Indian parents living in America. He was ahead in one grade, which meant that when he was 5, his peers were a year older than he was. During sports lessons and activities, he felt he couldn't keep up and decided that he sucked at it. As a result of that, he found comfort in video games since the skill gap caused by the age difference wasn't present there. This eventually spiraled into a full video game addiction, which has caused him to fail at school up until college, in which he majored in biology and couldn't stick to its demands. By that point, he and his parents have tried everything to get him back on track, but to no avail. His parents, both highly successful and status-driven individuals, had high expectations for him, and as such, these results were unacceptable. As a last measure attempt, he was sent to India to study at a monastery, with the hope of coming back to America as a fixed person. Alok spent 7 years in India studying yoga techniques, meditation practices, and the Eastern healing system called Ayurveda. Meeting his mentor and being fascinated with finally experiencing clarity regarding his mind and behavior, and also having some intense spiritual events, Alok decided to become a monk. But before he could do that, his teachers have set the condition that he must first finish his biology degree back in the USA, which he agreed to do. Going back and forth between the countries for a couple of years, he finished his degree with a focus on neuroscience and was ready to become a monk of celibacy. However, his plan would shift its gears when he met his future wife, became confused, and decided to abandon being a monk in favor of marrying and building a family. Determining to live in the material realm, he once again became a student, this time to become a fully fledged Dr. K. To understand both the mind and the body, Alok took the route to become a psychiatrist at Harvard University, and now he acts as a psychiatric clinician, researcher, and teacher at multiple renowned facilities while treating some of the highest class people in society as an addiction professional. Going around and asking his most esteemed colleagues about video game addiction garnered shallow responses which portrayed an overall misconception and lack of understanding regarding the topic, as a result of most of them being over 50 and not once touching a controller in their lives. Dr. K started working with addicted gamers in his free time and opened the first Reddit AMA, Ask Me Anything, on the topic in August of 2018. Realizing that the problem was larger than he had first thought, he founded Healthy Gamer, a mental health platform for gamers by gamers to help people regain control over their lives. Exactly a year later, Dr. K opened the second Reddit AMA, which led him to start to stream on twitch.tv and uploading clips on YouTube to try and increase the scope to a greater audience who he could reach out to and help. At first, the talking points were centered around video game addiction, but quickly spread to cover just about anything relating to the human experience. Feeling that just talking about the subjects was not enough to transfer his message, Dr. K started interviewing people in a therapeutic format, live on air, which were then uploaded to his YouTube channel unedited. These interviews then evolved to include other popular streamers from the site and internet personalities, which came to openly discuss their lifestyles and worries. This final evolution is what has caused the Healthy Gamer channel to explode, garnering attention and responses like never before, skyrocketing it to over 100,000 followers in a few months, and is also the main topic of this video.
Presumably this was a group about video game addiction, but over time I began to realize that it's not really just about being addicted to the game, it's that people don't understand mental health. That mental health, the face of mental health is changing, right? So the needs and pressures that are on our minds have changed.
I believe that Dr. K's success comes from a place of great need. With the advent of social media as an integral part of our lives, new and demanding mental problems have risen in many aspects of our routine. Most of us, however, do not have the funds necessary to go to therapy, but still need an outlet to gain clarity over our feelings and thoughts. In this new age of vulnerability, the time has come for all of us to become more knowledgeable and connected so that we may help ourselves and others around us.
I think in order to create a better world for all human beings today, it requires all human beings to pitch in.
People online have been subjected to the overwhelmingly toxic and competitive aspects of it without meeting with the meek and vulnerable side of themselves. Dr. K has come to change that, and his vocation centered at helping others understand how they work as human beings is one that we all should take upon ourselves to some extent.
So, we have classes for things, right? We have classes for like mathematics and history.
Yeah.
And we're formally taught how these things work. Like you go to school and you learn computer science and then you learn how to program. We're never taught how we work.
In order to do that and become better for everyone around us, we must learn how to operate during moments of stress experienced by us and others. So let's now explore the wonders of therapy, the ideal therapeutic experience, and its building blocks, which can be used in any situation in which one must help another human being. Good and bad therapy. According to the site Good Therapy, there are 8 components that form a good therapeutic experience, which will lead to positive outcomes, while their opposites would deteriorate or even cause damage. Here is the noble eightfold path of therapy, portrayed through SpongeBob.
Go on.
First, it is non-pathologizing, meaning that the therapist treats the patient as a whole human being with many diverse elements within them, instead of classifying them with a definition that overshadows their other aspects. While considering the disorders present within the patients and the groups he identifies with are important, defining the person solely according to them would lead to general advice which may not fit and also cause him to feel unheard for who he truly is. It is empowering, meaning that while helping others, it is important to allow them to see their strengths and value, compliment when it's appropriate, and try to find and make them aware of the good qualities present within them, while amplifying their capacity for changing the bad ones. Focusing on just the problems and weaknesses will make the patient feel inadequate, and if done repetitively, will cause a depressive, deflective, or aggressive state of blame towards the helper and the patient himself. It is collaborative, meaning that the therapist should spark the inner doctor in the patient's mind and allow it to fit in with the therapeutic process. Helping another person must be done with the acknowledgement that both parties are headed towards the same goal and should work together to achieve it. On the opposite end, we have therapists who leave no place for the patient to speak their mind, and on the other side, patients who talk incessantly while the therapist just nods without inputting anything of value. It is focused, meaning that it has tentative goals that are understood by both parties and benefit the patient. The therapist should not use the patient for his own personal fulfillment or view the patient as a representative to solve his own problems. Also, the therapist should direct the conversation to what's important and meaningful for the patient, sometimes cutting them off from ranting that is unproductive. It is within the state of self, defined as a state in which the therapist is calm, curious, compassionate, creative, confident, courageous, connected, and clear, as opposed to nervous, uninterested, neglecting, bland and cliché, wavering, cowardly, disconnected, and confusing. It is built upon trust, meaning that the patient has reached a point in which he believes the therapist can be trusted in terms of confidentiality and goodwill towards them. Trying to help someone who is suspicious of your motives can be a very daunting task that can lead to misinterpretation and malice to occur, overall making the experience one engulfed with tension, which can rarely touch upon the important bits. It has depth, meaning that while conversing, it is crucial to try to reach the deepest sources of pain which motivate the behaviors and mental processes occurring within the patient's mind. Experiencing these unbearable pains in a safe environment and gaining clarity over them is one of the core tenets of therapy. While this shouldn't be done at all times, if it isn't strived for, the result will be a surface-level discussion that does not touch upon the meaningful aspects present in the individual. And lastly, it knows its limitations and imperfection, meaning that no therapy or therapist is capable of fixing everything or everyone. To truly help someone, one must know when it is beyond their capacity. Every situation has its imperfections, and acknowledging them through the use of collaborative introspection would yield much better results. Keep all of these in mind as we move forward to describe the formats and techniques in which treatment transpires, beginning with Dr. K's approach to the subject. I decided to use an anime opening at the beginning of the video to portray what I believe to be the strongest aspect of Dr. K's arrival to the online landscape. It is one that resembles the shonen protagonist, rising above the core of his issues. Then, by interacting with other characters, he gives them the insights they need to become better and by extension, saving the world.
I see myself more as Morpheus in this case, and you're Neo, where I've been like scanning Twitch for someone to arise that's going to look a lot like you and kind of do the things that you're doing. And you know, it happened.
From out of nowhere, the Chosen One appeared to solve all of our deep-seated issues, to cleanse us from our destructive egos, one by one, using his well-practiced mystical abilities to fix the internet. While this narrative is very compelling and magical, every magic has a method behind it, and Dr. K does not hide it. In this segment, I will go over multiple techniques he picks out of the toolbox that aids his patients, while applying it to the audience watching as well. Remember that since this is not magic, many clinicians apply them as well, and when you are helping another human being, you can use them too.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I don't think you need to like have a degree or be like a licensed professional to like help another human being.
Dr. K's most powerful tool is that of humanity. He does not pretend to be above his patients or the audience, and this humility allows him to use the personal experiences he has been through to connect issues with one another.
Here's the problem is that people like you talk to me at the beginning of the stream and then you think I'm something, but I'm not anything, man.
Wait, what do you mean?
Like, I'm just a guy. Like, you're kind of saying like, oh yeah, you studied so much and you've done so much. Like, yeah, that's true, but at the end of the day, I'm just a guy. Dude.
That's the
You're
thing.
just a guy.
That's the thing.
While other practitioners may put on a cold mask in front of their patients and not talk about their own lives at all, to seem objective or distance themselves from the situation, Dr. K revels in it and allows everyone to see his truest self at all times.
Questions before we wrap up for the day?
Yeah, are you God?
No.
Like,
No, if I was God, then I couldn't actually help anyone. But as it turns out, I'm human. And so the cool thing about being human is that the experiences that I have, I can actually like the things that happen to me in my growth in life is actually applicable to other humans. Right? So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
This is seen through his facial expressions, which as opposed to being hidden, are amplified for all viewers to clearly understand, the effects of which allow for an intimate connection to be formed in which Dr. K's current mental state, misunderstandings and realizations are laid bare for all eyes to see, a fact that makes him more human, just like us, who rarely hide our facial expressions.
I have a lot of facial expressions that I tend to be pretty transparent about. And if I'm scanning my memory, I think it's fine for people to understand that I'm scanning my memory. We're not playing poker. It's in my professional interest to actually show what's on my face, not conceal it. So I tend to be different from other psychiatrists in that way, in the sense that like a lot of people try to be a blank slate. I just show what's on my face.
The blank slate does suck. I've talked to a lot of the blank slates.
I think it's stupid. I mean,
okay.
Actually, that's kind of judgmental. I just don't think it's for me.
His infectious smile is presented at times when it seems inappropriate, usually when the other person is crying or feeling intense emotions. While from an outsider's perspective this may seem odd or disrespectful, the reason for that is found within his understanding that the patient has hope of growing and improving, and from his seeing the opening to the path of progress.
And people in chat were wondering why I was smiling when you were like devastated. I smile because I have hope. I smile because when I look at you, I see someone who's starting to like unzombify, and I smile because I can see it happening, and it's a beautiful thing.
Smiling in the face of crying creates a contrast that allows both of them to feel good and natural as the necessary steps in which letting go and feelings of relief transpire. Contrary to other therapists who sometimes end up talking academically, Dr. K speaks in a casual way which feels as if he is talking to a close friend. He curses when it fits, uses internet slangs, and stops to think before answering.
Good is an understatement. It's the understatement of the fucking year.
In line with his humility, he does not shy away from proclaiming that he does not understand something and ask for clarifications, and paraphrases his statements with remarks pertaining to their validity, such as stating it's just an opinion or it is not scientific.
This is my running hypothesis for how life shaped you to be the way that you are. So
Okay.
I think that this could be maybe too abstract of a question. So let me think about how to phrase it better, or just state what because I just realized there's an implication to my question. So
Sure.
let me just think about this.
Giving a lot of emphasis on acclimating himself towards the patient and the audience, he changes his language, sentence construction, and vocabulary, using words he only just heard the meaning of from the patient back at them.
What are you feeling?
I'm about to get bodied.
What does that mean? What do you
It
think?
means
All the right stuff, and you're just getting bodied day after day after day after day.
Being a gamer himself, he uses a lot of fantastic analogies and metaphors taken from gaming to the real world, which connect very strongly with the patient and the audience.
So you've just got this fucking debuff, and the thing is, you've had the debuff for so long that you think it's like,
This debuff sucks, by the
yeah,
way.
absolutely.
I hate this debuff.
And you think
Yeah.
it's a part of, like, you think you got it during character creation. You think it's you involved. Like, let's say there's two kinds of world. Like, there's a single player game and there's a multiplayer game. And if you're playing a single player game, then you can control everything in the game. But if you're playing multiplayer and I'm running around and like I get like PvP'd and ganked,
yes.
then like
And
I don't
you-
want to
so-
live in the multiplayer world. It can actually be like a little bit dangerous to think about living in a multiplayer world, because like you're actually not in control, and that thought is terrifying. Like,
Yeah. Ew. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't like that.
so my experience for people who learn habitually how to do something is, even if they learn how to like stop doing it, it's not like the armor gets destroyed, it just gets unequipped, and then you can re-equip it.
This acclamation helps Dr. K with timing his statements and revelations to just the right moment, which is crucial for the understanding of the patient, and if done poorly, will cause confusion and deflection.
Kind of, yeah. I don't know if we're missing on this point, but like politically they might be.
All of these tools create a strange dynamic between Dr. K, the patient, and the audience.
I love you, Dr. K.
Is he our doctor? Is he our friend?
I want to be Reckful's friend, right? So, but if I'm your friend, then can I be your doctor? Do I want to be your doctor? Do I want to be your friend?
For me, it feels like he has become a good friend that is just very proficient at helping others. Such a dynamic can be viewed as destructive for reasons relating to abandonment, but I believe that its benefits far outweigh its risks in most cases as a result of his constant introspection and boundary setting.
And so we basically had a conversation about like, what are the bounds of our relationship? What's acceptable? What isn't acceptable?
Outside of being human, Dr. K is also a doctor and a practicing clinician. From his experience in the field, he applies techniques that allow him to guide the session towards a productive goal while seeing the patient for all the elements present within them at this moment of time.
And the way that you're feeling, instead of just pushing you down a path because it's quote unquote good for you, or, you know, helps you understand things or whatever, let's try to meet you where you are and talk about what does it feel like
I like this
To-
thought process.
to live where you are right now.
As opposed to other psychologists, Dr. K's studies in Ayurveda when he resided in India has made him aware of the functional relationship between the mind and the body. He regularly asks questions that may seem bizarre in a therapeutic setting, relating to bodily functions and behaviors that ultimately connects to the mental state of the patient.
But the first thing to start with is diet, diet, diet. First line treatment for mental health problems in Ayurveda is a dietary change. Change your diet, your anxiety, your depression, your anger will get better. And now there's an emerging field. The hottest topic in medicine right now is brain gut. It's this idea that if you change your gut bacteria, your mental health will change.
Modern medicine has led us to believe that each of our functions are mostly independent of one another, especially in terms of the physical and mental distinctions, which only now are started to be studied scientifically as elements with direct effects on one another. Dr. K is one step ahead in this case and uses it to reach a healthier body-mind combination.
There are people that are in my practice that have been on treatment for, like, have been in therapy and medication for anxiety for like 15 years. And within 6 months, we're taping them off of medication and they feel fantastic. Why? Is it because I'm a brilliant clinician? No, this is what I'm saying. I'm not actually any better. It's just I use tools that none of my colleagues use. I use Ayurveda. And it's like, it's OP, man.
He avoids diagnosing people and instead focuses on the experiential and symptomatic aspects of their lives, as opposed to the illness or disorder which may be perceived in them.
Okay.
I'm not so interested in details. I'm interested in sort of your sense of how you experience certain things and how you view certain people.
In the same line, he rarely gives value judgments or absolute advice. His goal is to lead the patient towards clarity and understanding of their situation, and then decide for themselves what should be done about it.
I don't know if that's good or not.
Yeah, so let's take a step back from what's good and what's not good. Because in my experience, judgment doesn't help us so much. I think let's start with understanding, and then we can sort of decide from a clear mindset, like what we want to do and what we don't want to do, like what we want to cultivate and what we don't.
This has the effect of humanizing the patient beyond his problems and giving them agency without forming a dependence on Dr. K's opinions. Having proficiency in detecting the protective mechanism of the ego within himself and others, he does not indulge the patient with answers to every question. Some questions and remarks come from a place that, if answered, will reinforce the aspects of the patient that he is trying to change, and so the simple action of replying can be regressive.
Never happened.
But what if they hate me? But if I just was able to tell them a little about me, they would like me.
Sky.
Oh God.
Okay, listen
Yes.
to me. What would it feel like? So you're scared of hate, but I'm going to ask you another question. What would it feel like if you didn't manipulate someone and they chose to love you instead?
Instead, he will try to distance the patient from his question, to notice the place from which it was asked from, for the patient to see his own behavior and its sources.
We can keep talking, but what games have you played? What's your... How did you know my WoW stuff? Or
Why are we talking
How
about
old are you?
WoW? Why are you asking me questions about myself now, of all times? What do you think?
I don't know. You tell me.
So I think that's us taking a break. So I think you've had a lot.
The two most recurring questions Dr. K asks are asked when he senses the patient has had a powerful thought or feeling which needs to be explored. These are, what are you thinking right now? And what are you feeling right now? Pausing the conversation to ask these questions serves multiple purposes. First, they take the patient out of an intense thought or emotion and make them aware of it without wallowing in it. Secondly, it makes their mental process and tendencies clearer to everyone present, and sometimes allows for more important revelations to come out of it. And thirdly, it shows that Dr. K cares about them and allows him to see how to lead the conversation from here. Should he go on with the topic or switch to another one to calm down the patient?
What do you feel in your body?
I feel like I want you to know every letter.
What does that feel like in your body?
It feels like an absence of 100%.
Okay, what does that feel like? Good. Now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel complete. It's empty.
Yes.
99% is the same thing as 0.
Beautiful. What does that feel
Yeah.
like? Describe the physical
Frustration.
sensations. Yes.
Yeah,
Good.
It's frustration. Yeah.
Frustration.
Dr. K is a master of introspection and abstraction. He reflects together with the patient every once in a while, asking him about how he feels about the progress of the session, if there was any, ready to accept that it was a waste of time in the patient's mind, and moving forward towards exploring why that is so.
How do you guys think this is going, by the way?
It's a little all over the place.
Yep. Anyone else feel that way?
This is a part of reflecting what the patient says and feels back to them and the audience in a digestible manner. It shows the patient that Dr. K is actually listening and internalizing what was said, and allows the audience to understand the patient's opinion, which may be incoherent to them without Dr. K's reflection of them. Through dumbing down the problems into their core, the audience can connect with them with the realization that what they had thought had no connection to their lives actually hits closer to home. Finally, and probably the most important aspect of conversing with Dr. K, is that he balances both the suffering and pain with the happiness and joy.
So we spend a lot of time talking about where badness comes from, right?
Yes.
So like trauma and people hurt you and this and that. But like, I think it's just as important to understand like where does goodness come from and how can you build like goodness into your life.
Some therapy sessions fall into the trap of talking only about the problems, the bad and the chaotic, while forgetting to give space for the solutions, the good and the exciting. He sees the potential in people and makes it clear to the patient and the audience that he believes change is possible, while showing during the conversation where change and positivity have shown their face.
and that just because you didn't follow the road that was scripted doesn't mean that you didn't find your own way, and that you are deserving of respect, because even more so than like just going to an engineering school, like you struggled and you found your own path. You forged a road, like you built a path that did not exist before. That despite all of your difficulties and all of the challenges that you faced, including depression, including parents who were not supportive back then, in spite of all of those things, you managed to get to where you are.
Not once have I started the conversation disliking the patient and feeling love and appreciation for them and their strengths by the end of it. It is truly a magnificent process to be a part of. Other than methods and behaviors present within his interviews, Dr. K presents Eastern concepts and terminology in the Sanskrit language, which relate to the topic and expand everyone's understanding in a digestible manner.
This is dharma. This is duty or responsibility. Like, I think your problem is that you have a samskar. That you have this kind of ball of undigested emotion that lurks beneath the surface and exerts its influence on your mind.
Knowing only one language can be detrimental to understanding a lot of things, specifically in the realm of the body and the mind. Each language has its weaknesses and strengths found in its descriptive power, which originates from its history and priorities of the cultures using it. And so, using another one for terms better explained by it leads to more clarity and realization from different angles.
So what we translate as the word meditation in Sanskrit actually has, at a minimum, 3 words that all get translated into English as meditation. But these are very different things. And this is why when I ask people, like, what is meditation, I get all kinds of answers.
Being an outsider to the Twitch landscape, both in mentality and age, Dr. K has become Twitch's favorite pet boomer. He exerts a different kind of view onto the watchers and the site as a whole, one that contrasts the overwhelming negativity and argumentative nature of Twitch.
When it's just a bunch of streamers talking, interacting with each other, and we're all living in this bubble, then we definitely get more caught up in all the negatives that result from being exposed to large groups of people.
Yeah.
And forget to step back and think about it critically.
It's sort of a return to form, to the early days of the site that had circled around gamers, chatting with gamers to chill out together, as opposed to creating drama and debating against one another.
Do you know what being me on Twitch feels like?
No.
It feels like being an AI trying to pass the Turing test. So I'm trying really hard to not be a boomer. And I think I can mimic it, but I really don't understand it, because at the end of the day, I'm not human and I'm just an AI. So then I would say just an AI pog.
They always think I'm the one on psilocybin. That sentence was crazy.
Now that Dr. K has reached massive exposure level and has garnered a ton of diehard fans with various expectations for the content he produces, he faces the same struggles that the streamers he treats experience as well. The need for validation and ego stroking that view counts and subscribers bring with them has been felt by him, and he needs to be careful with how he continues.
So the funny thing that started to happen is when we talk about streamers, like when I talk to streamers, they sort of talk about the feeling of needing to perform. And I also sort of felt that struggle personally. So I started like noticing that my viewer count started mattering to me. And I would check my viewer count, and I would check, like, I would just log on at random times to see like how many followers we have on Twitch. And I started to like feel this pull towards like wanting to be bigger. And I think that that's really dangerous.
Will he become less patient with his patients? Drive them towards uncomfortable places for the sake of satisfying the audience? Manufacturing and focusing on narratives that may not fully represent the problems, but allow for higher highs, such as crying? Will he become monetized to no end, milking the streamers and audience for more views, which leads to more money? I believe that he comes from a place of genuine goodwill, but only the future will tell what route he will choose to take.
You know, the goal of this, and I hope we really stay true to our mission and don't sell out and all that good stuff, is ultimately to help you. And it's to help the people who come on. It's to help the people who are part of our community. Like, that's what we're really about. It's not about growth. It's not about money. It's not about subs. I mean, all that stuff is really helpful and helps us grow, so I'm grateful for that. But at the end of the day, like, we got into this to help you guys understand how you work as human beings and how to be like more successful and be healthier and happier in life.
In any case, anyone who has talked to the guy has felt it was a profound experience, one that is both unique and productive towards forming a healthier mindset in life.
I can tell you right now, this may have been one of the most impactful things that we've ever done on this broadcast.
This one day was an important moment in my life. And thank you.
Well, thank you for letting me do my dharma.
But this guy was really smart. He did it a really responsible way, and he seemed like he knew what he understood really well, like his whole thought process and how to break down and analyze other people's thought processes.
I promise you, nothing of what was said in the hour lost, and I'm going to watch this VOD so much that I might memorize it.
Oh man, that was insanely cool.
And for the people who are watching, presenting these experiences live has the effect of normalizing them, making events, ideas, and topics more accessible, and allows for everyone to consider taking off their masks for a moment, with the confidence that it won't be their end. Social normalization is the process in which certain things become accepted into the norm. These norms are dependent on multiple factors, including geographic, demographic, and time periods, but they are always changing dynamically, for better or worse, depending on who you might ask. Now, let's explore some of the things that are normalized during Dr. K's discussions, which I will pertain to as mostly good for society and the individuals watching.
Mental illness is stigmatized, and a lot of what I do here is to destigmatize it, and I guess it's good that a lot of people, after watching the stream, are giving therapy a shot, which I think is fantastic.
The general practice of therapy is normalized within these chats. Therapy has been one of the most misrepresented topics within our society. It has been stigmatized as something that only broken and disordered individuals, crazy people essentially, go to, and the normal person has nothing to gain by experiencing it. In media such as books, movies, and video games, the therapeutic process and the clinicians are usually portrayed cynically, presenting it as a useless exercise that is just there to take your hard-earned money, in which the practitioner does not actually care about you or your feelings. While this depiction definitely has some truth to it, like all stereotypes, it is incomplete and misleading. Some therapists are indeed dipshits, but Dr. K shows how much he cares for the people he talks to, and the progress they make during sessions is blatant to everyone witnessing. It shows the power of having someone who is willing to set aside the world for a moment and focus just on you, allowing the space to express and analyze whatever comes to mind without judgment.
Damn, I must sound like a psycho.
No, I don't think you sound like a psycho. I think you sound like someone who was abused and wasn't sufficiently loved when you were growing up.
By extension, it normalizes humans opening up their wounds and exploring their emotional scars in front of others. Most of us have been masterfully trained to push aside our weaknesses while blowing up our strengths, especially when others are witnessing us, out of the fear that we will be ridiculed for not being strong enough. Promoting this expression of vulnerability that is then rewarded by Dr. K's insights and positive comments from Twitch chat normalizes it and allows for a much more honest society, individuals, and relationships to form. It also leads to less loneliness, as we all feel like our problems are unique to us, when the reality is that there is actually a huge overlap in them that, when expressed, gives a sense of community and connection to the human race like no other.
And so like this is the thing that really blows my mind is like, we've always thought that, I mean, this isn't therapy, but that generally speaking, the sharing of emotions and like airing, you know, our deepest, darkest feelings and thoughts and stuff should be done in private. Like, what the fuck, man, doing it in public?
That's really, yeah, it's the worst to just keep it private.
Yeah,
I think.
right. That like these things, like our negative feelings when they exist within us and we don't show them to the world, they actually compound. It's private and it kind of like lives inside them and no one ever sees it, and it just eats them alive. And the longer time that goes on and the more they keep it within them, like the worse and worse it gets.
Opening up topics that have been lying dormant within us for so long can often lead to breakdowns that involve crying. When such a thing occurs in a stream, it is treated gently as a form of relief as opposed to a weakness that should be put away.
It's nice to feel something.
Yeah. It's kind of weird, right? Because you're crying. So most people associate that as like a thing that they don't want to feel.
No, I liked it.
Yeah. How do you feel? What do you feel in your body?
I feel like in my body, I don't know how to describe it. I don't know. I feel I feel like I just passed something.
Yeah.
And kind of hopeful, I guess.
Yeah.
For the future, maybe.
I think I imagine you feel a little bit lighter. But what we can call it is leveling up.
A little bit.
You just leveled
Leveling up.
The stigma related to crying is a powerful one, and many people never allow themselves that crucial relief of piled up emotions and release of chemicals, which if not done, can lead to immense stress that is proven to be a source of physical conditions such as heart failure. Crying can literally save your life, and it is important to accept and even encourage it, which is exactly what Dr. K has done and has transferred to his viewers.
If you guys feel like crying, you should cry. Just let it out, man. Doesn't do any good staying in there.
In a setting ingrained with such intense emotional reactions, it is of vital importance to pause every once in a while to relieve oneself through silence. The fear of silence within a conversation is one that many feel and try to avoid at all costs. For some reason, it makes us very uncomfortable when neither side is talking.
Let's just try to do something for you. And if that means periods of awkward silence, then it's periods of awkward silence.
Dr. K does not treat the awkwardness created by this silence as abnormal. He embraces it and other types of actions which are regularly considered to be awkward. Saying silly stuff, doing weird positions, and closing your eyes in front of the viewers is treated just as they are, natural actions. It makes us realize that our awkwardness is a product of our own mind and societal norms, which are more often than not damaging, restrictive, and ultimately should not be treated that seriously, as opposed to ridiculing oneself and others for doing them.
So, this is fucking weird, I know. Fold the pillow in half and tuck it under your head. Oh, someone has a good suggestion. Lay on the floor and put a book on your stomach. That's a great suggestion. Good. And out. There we go. Let him all the way down, all the way down, all the way down. This has got to be hilarious for people who are just joining the studio. Like, what the fuck is going on?
One of the most baffling things in our society is how positivity and genuine compliments are so abnormal. I am sure each and every one watching this has been through an instance in which he wanted so badly to say something nice but didn't because of reasons. We live life unaware of the positive things others believe about us and are left with our own negative loops of inadequacy. Dr. K does not allow this to happen. If he feels that something should be reinforced, no matter how small it may feel for an outsider, he will say it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that you got there that quick. I think you're learning fast. Frustrated with you?
Yeah, myself.
Frustrated with me?
No, not... Well, yeah, kind of.
There we go! Good job!
Okay.
Good job!
Great.
There is absolutely no shame in making another person feel better about themselves, and creating a world that is unafraid to uplift others would help eliminate our rigid views of ourselves, which are already prone to focusing and finding the bad aspects of our own personality and behaviors.
So I was about to say, it blows my mind that you're not able to see that you have value, that you have immense value.
Lastly, each of Dr. K's conversations end with about 10 minutes of teaching and experiencing a meditation technique. Meditation has always been shrouded in mystery, and many consider it to be a useless practice. Through explaining it and encouraging the live audience to do it alongside the streamer, everyone gets a first-hand experience of its benefits regarding focusing the mind and distancing ourselves from the constant pain for a bit. It becomes a communal event in which for 10 minutes, everyone watching becomes one and can viscerally feel the power of meditation. Especially when it is done after an intense session filled with overwhelming emotions, one can see how calming it can be to step outside of oneself and recalculate. It normalizes the practice of meditation from being viewed as crazy, fanatic, and religious to practical, approachable, and calming.
Wow, this has opened up my, I didn't even know this stuff was possible. I thought it was like a myth. I thought it was some hippie stuff or something, you know?
Yeah, I'm with you. It's because that's how it's fucking taught most of the time.
These normalizations are vital towards us being more accepting of ourselves and others. They ultimately make us more empathetic and reasonable, and this can be seen through the patience and audience that Dr. K has cultivated, which may be the most open community currently present on the internet. This new phenomenon of expressing vulnerability and it being welcomed and encouraged by Dr. K and an audience of thousands is heartwarming. And even though it may seem like it, you don't need a license to help another human being. Go ahead, try it. I promise you that being a better person to yourself and your surroundings will enrich your life with a sense of duty fulfilled. In this new age of alienation and fake personas delivered through the internet, intimacy has become a rare occurrence that is usually avoided. Intimacy cannot be formed without seeing the whole character of the ones around you, and living life without intimacy is the loneliest thing a person can subject himself to. Do not be afraid of it, revel in it. Be the one who is capable of withstanding the burden, shifting it into an energizing source of love. In the next part, I will dissect the roles of the streaming patients and the watching audience, seeing how this holy triangle generates a beautiful display of emotional resonance. Now go, call your friend, mom or whatever, and make their day and yours that much better. I'll see you in the next one.